All right, today let's talk about careers and taxes. Now, the interesting thing about careers, I want us to keep in mind um, with this pandemic, I don't know how things are going to shake out. I don't know how that's going to affect your career selection. Let me just give you an example of this. Way back, just before 9/11 hit, I had a good friend who was an airline pilot, and he was headed off to Denver to United's big, that's where their hub was, for extra training, etc. Well, then 9/11 hit, and that ended his dream of being a pilot. All right, so um, I don't know how this is going to play out. I don't know how this will affect your career choice. And it may be something you have to put your career choice on hold. Only the good news is you're still in high school. You still have college in front of you, and the world will be different in a couple years. And you may do something you hadn't thought of because there'll be new jobs, new opportunities, etc. I mean, the world's changing. And just to throw this out there, a lot of the younger generation, they'll have multiple careers or multiple jobs, if you will. All right. So, once again, just keep all that in mind as you think ahead. You may think, well, this is what I want to do the rest of your life, and you may not. Okay. So, let's keep that in mind. All right. Uh, I noticed on page 226, about half of the population or the teenage population believes that one day they'll have their dream job. I find that hard to believe because then when you get down the road, you do other surveys, it's like 70% of the people don't like their job. I mean, so I don't know. But here we go. On page 227, to consider when choosing a career path, you've got to ask what you're naturally good at. And I'll be honest with you, when you go to college, you don't have to pick a major your first year because you haven't been exposed to a lot of things. And you can always change your major. All right. You can change your major your junior year and you'll probably be fine. All right. So, but, you need to ask what am I naturally good at? What are my hobbies? What are my interests? All right. Now, I'll just say this. A lot of people have a great hobby, even as adults, but they don't want to do that for a living. I mean, it's a great hobby. It's just not a good job. All right. So just something to keep in mind. I know a guy loves to do, has like a hobby, pork barbecue and all that, but I don't think he wants to run a restaurant. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Not all hobbies should be your career path, but some might be. You can experiment by getting a part-time job, volunteering, or just shadow someone on a job. All right. And then while you're there, you can ask questions. Invest time in making your decision rather than spending time fixing it later. And that is, you just take your time and you've got plenty of time to think about it, survey the landscape. All right. And then remember that just because a particular job pays well doesn't mean that you'll enjoy the job. I mean, if you don't enjoy the job, the money may not be worth it. Okay. And then don't let money and happiness confuse you. All right. Don't get confused. Don't confuse the two. Money and happiness, two different things. All right. You could be money and be unhappy. So, money's not the answer to everything. Oh, it helps. It helps. All right. Well, the job market constantly changes, and I just mentioned that it does. And there'll be a lot of businesses to go out, and there'll be new businesses started during this pandemic. If you go back to 9/11, I mean, I know that was before your time. Before 9/11, there were no TSA agents when you went to the airport. So that's brand new industry. Okay. A lot of things change. Okay. So the job market constantly changes, and so do you. And you're going to change over time. And you may enjoy doing something today, and you might not enjoy it 2 years from now. So just realize that you change. All right. And then 10 years from now, you may change your career path. It's not unusual, and it's actually pretty normal. All right. So just keep that in mind. Now, what's most important is that you do what you love to do and what you're naturally good at. And then if you do that with excellence, you should not have to worry about money. So you want it on page 228. Let's identify some personal strengths and weaknesses. You have them, I have them. All right. Notice in the top left-hand block, it's not how much money we make that ultimately makes us happy between 9 and 5. It's whether our work fulfills us. Listen, you're going to spend a lot of time at work. Most of your life, you'll be at work. Think about that. 8 hours a day, maybe 9, 10 hours a day, you're at work. Or maybe 10, 11 hours, you're on your way to work, at work, coming home from work. So that's a big chunk of time. So you want to enjoy that time. All right. Well, you look down at the positive page 220, 228. You got to have to stay positive. Boy, in this day and age, think about it right now. It's hard to stay positive, but you need to. So write things down. There's a lot of negative voices out there. We're living in the midst of fear. Everybody's fearful. Oh no, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. I don't know. My opinion is it's overblown. I get the fear side a little bit. Elderly parents, grandparents, I get all that. I mean, nobody wants to get this thing, but it's and so I'm talking about careers. So let's stay positive, all right? And then number 2, refute them with the truth. We could talk about the data on this thing, and I just saw where some meat plant, 370 people tested positive, and they had no symptoms, which means that all these numbers you hear, this pandemic is way more widespread probably than we realize. So I don't know, but when it comes to careers and all that, let's just make sure we stick with the facts, all right? The truth, all right? And then number 3, share your voices. And do you know what you fear? All right? And maybe you need to doubt your fear. Okay, so, for instance, I go to Walmart. I'm going tomorrow. I go to Lowe's. I'm going tomorrow. I mean, I don't know when you'll see this video. Okay, so is there an element of fear? Not really. Could I get it? Yeah. I mean, and I'm not even going to wear a mask. All right, at this point. So, I don't know. Sometimes you just got to doubt your fears, because a lot of times you can be fearful. I mean, I remember playing baseball, be afraid to swing the. I've watched guys. They're afraid, little kids especially, afraid to swing the bat, afraid they'll miss the ball. Well, if you play baseball, you're going to swing and miss a lot at some point. Okay, so you got to doubt your fears. All right, and then there's a few things here. That down in the build your brand area, skills, experiences, strengths, and then marketing those in the best ways. All right. So once again, and listen, the founder of Southwest Airlines wrote a paper for his MBA, and his professor gave him a C on it and said his idea would never work. I'm sorry, I miss. It was FedEx. Sorry, it wasn't Southwest Airlines. FedEx. FedEx has done pretty well, right? Sounds like a pretty good idea. So be careful. I'm just saying here, balance out what the critics tell you. Oh, that you shouldn't do that. You can't do that. You're going to need some wisdom, need some insight, bounce it off a few people. But you may be on the right path and somebody try to talk you out of it, all right? And that's not always the easiest to figure out. Just keep that in mind, all right? All right. On page 230, now just because you're good at something doesn't make it a strength. I mean, I was pretty good at sports, played baseball really well, never did become a pro. Probably a good idea, maybe not. I don't know. All right. Let's talk about your personality a little bit. On page 231, I'm going to stop this video because I want to come back and just start off and go right into this, talking about your personality. And so that gives you some time if you want to read ahead a little bit and see who you think you are before you tune into the next video.